Good morning, outer space, from all the human race. It's time to stow your sleeping gear. We know you had a blast, you're up in space at last. Now your main objective's clear. Deploy the space telescope to carry on our dreams and hopes. Space is our world. We're living our destiny. Space is our world. The spirit of discovery. Space is our world. 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 Space is our world.
Good morning, Discovery. Your wake-up music today is compliments of your training team. We want you to make them proud today. There are 17 pages of messages waiting for you in the tags, including a flight plan update with a new star pair C1 for your IMU align this morning. When you have the paper tray cleared, give us a call and we'll send another volley. We still have weather pictures and 2 more copies of the flight plan to go. We'll leave you alone for now and let you get ready for a big day.
Houston Discovery, KT, we copy all that, and we thank you and our training team for an outstanding wake-up music.
They're listening.
This is Mission Control Houston. This view live from the Alpha camera at the forward port location in the payload bay, looking aft along the robot arm as it's poised over and around the starboard side of the Hubble Space Telescope as Steve Hawley prepares to move in and grapple. And our PDRS officer here in the flight control room confirms via telemetry that the Hubble Space Telescope has been grappled. The end effector snares have closed and rigidized, and Hubble is now firmly in the grasp of Steve Hawley's robot arm.
And we've got you. There is enough light.
Okay, Story, well, welcome aboard.
Great picture. Puts me right up there with you.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're just about a minute away from passing out of range of the tracking and data relay satellite east, and as we do so, Discovery and its Hubble Space Telescope beginning to pass from day into darkness. Mission Specialist Steve Hawley has succeeded in rolling the Hubble Space Telescope 90 degrees around its longitudinal axis, is in the process right now of elevating the telescope position to a high hover. Again, that's adjacent to the low hover position, but several feet higher, to allow for clearance of the telescope when he begins the pitch down maneuver to pitch the aperture door end of the telescope down towards the payload bay and then back towards the OMS pods, which will set the stage for solar array deployment.
And this is Hubble Telescope Control in Greenbelt. We are now receiving television, non-standard television, from the spacecraft of the Hubble telescope at the end of the remote manipulator system. Clearly in the field of view is one of the two solar array packages, still in the stowed position with both latches released.
Discovery will take this attitude right here, like you to go free drift for PDM deploy.
Roger, free drift.
And this is Hubble Telescope Control Greenbelt. 1 day, 1 hour, 52 minutes mission elapsed time. Mission specialist Bruce McCandless has advised that they are seeing movement of the primary deployment mechanism. This motion will swing the 15-foot masts away from the side of the telescope.
And Houston, we still see good motion on the primary deployment.
Thank you, Lauren. We've got the TV down here.
Okay, good.
This Hubble Telescope Control Greenbelt, 1 day, 1 hour, 54 minutes mission elapsed time. Continuing to receive television through the Vandenberg tracking station, and it is clearly showing the deployment of the solar array masts with the solar array package in the stowed position. The arrays are wound much like a pair of window shades around a roller, and kept in that configuration for launch. And once the primary deployment activity has been completed. The crew tweaks the attitude and replaces the vehicle in free drift. The operations team here will begin commanding the solar array blankets to unfurl. The solar array masts are deployed simultaneously, both the port and starboard masts, and in the field of view is the port solar array mast being deployed. The actual blankets, however, are unfurled one set of blankets at a time. This is Hubble Telescope Control Greenbelt. 1 day, 2 hours, 1 minute mission elapsed time. We're standing by now for telemetry confirmation that both of the solar array masts are fully deployed. We're anticipating that momentarily.
And Discovery, let us know if you need add a new maintenance.
We will, Lauren.
Roger that.
As soon as we get confirmation of PDM deploy, we'll recover the attitude using auto burns, but not yet. Houston for Charlie.
Go ahead, Story.
The only suggestions we got are to, cycle the connections, the pigtails on your signal conditioners. We have no other ideas.
Okay, I'll have them do that one more time. And I'll go up and recycle the diabed channel selectors.
Yeah, and it's not likely we wouldn't be getting both of them, but that's the only suggestion we have.
And we see first motion. Looks good.
And as the crew just confirmed, we're seeing both blankets beginning to unfurl on the port side solar array.
So far we see good smooth motion both sides.
And we got TV down here, Lauren.
Roger that.
It'll take approximately 7 to 8 minutes for this activity to be completed. The array is driven fairly slowly.
And Story, camera B also has a picture of this.
Thank you.
The solar arrays are driven out of their cassettes by bistems, which are at each side of the array. The bistem is visible in the television being downlinked from the spacecraft at this time. It's attached at the end of the array to a spreader bar, and the spreader bar is in turn attached to the array, which literally pulls the array out of the cassette, which held it packaged during launch. When fully deployed, both of the arrays together produce about 6,000 volts, about half of which is required to operate telescope systems, and during the daylight side of the pass, the other half is used to recharge the 6 nickel hydrogen batteries. Shift Supervisor Pete Patero just checking with his control team, receiving a report that from the ground, as confirmed by the crew from orbit, the deploy activity so far is going very smoothly. We see no indications of any problems at this time.
As you can see, Story, we've got 3 panels out.
Thanks, Lauren.
There are a total of 7 solar panel assemblies on each of the blankets, which indicates that we're just now passing the 4th panel, so we're over halfway to completion of the deployment of the port side solar array wing. We're now seeing the 5th panel being pulled from the cassette. Now clearly visible at each side of the array blanket are the bistems, which are made of a memory material. They're rolled flat in the cassette, and then as they are pulled from the cassette.
We saw it stop on its own, and then we executed item 2 immediately.
Thank you, Lauren.
And the silver mark denoting full deployment is just about is exactly where it should be.
Thank you.
And motion was smooth and consistent throughout.
And we saw it down here. Discovery, we'd like free drift for minus SDM deploy.
Okay, we copy free drift.
It's firm.
Okay, you're in free drift now.
Thank you.
And with that confirmation that the orbiter is in free drift, the go-ahead has been given to send the commands that will actually start the motors deploying the starboard solar array wings. We're now receiving television, and we have
Okay, we had drop lock release.
And this is Hubble telescope control. The crew confirmed that we had release, and we have an indication that we have stopped at this point deployment of the secondary blankets. The team here is taking a look at data to determine exactly where we are at this point. A moment ago, we received observation from Commander Lawrence Shriver that he did not observe any difference between the array release on the starboard wing and the array release on the port wing, only that there was no further motion once the arrays were released. That was basically the same indication that was received here in the Space Telescope Operations Control Center. And again, the analysts, both from the European Space Agency, NASA, and others are taking a look at that situation at this time. And this is Hubble telescope control now that the vehicle's in free drift. Orbital verification team, ops controller is in the process of sending the commands, which should start the actual unfurling of the solar array blankets. And we see the wings beginning to move.
We see motion.
So do we, Lauren.
As the blankets begin deploying, the orbital verification team is watching very closely the tension being placed on those wings so far. Looking good. And we have an indication that we had an out of limits condition. The arrays have stopped their motion.
This is Mission Control Houston. Flight controllers here in Mission Control Center discussing an impending deadline. Within about 13 minutes, we will reach a point of having concluded the pre-breathe, and in order to provide enough rapid response time to support an EVA that would enable an orbit 21 deploy, we would need to begin depressurizing the airlock in about 12 to 13 minutes from now. In the event that we can't satisfy the, or in the event that we're unable to complete the solar array deploy in that time, the option would be to go ahead and depress the cabin, or depress the airlock, and keep the crew inside the airlock in the suits, ready to move out immediately in the event that the EVA would be required to complete the deployment of the solar array, setting up a release on orbit 21. So flight controllers here in Houston standing by for some word from the stock as to whether or not they believe they can drive that array out in the next 15 minutes or so before we have to make that decision.
Discovery, free drift for minus SDM deploy.
Roger, free drift. You're in free drift, Story.
Thank you.
And with the orbiter in free drift, the orbital verification team is in the process of sending those commands to start the motors and resume deployment of the starboard wing. That request designed to provide the solar array team here in the stock with a better view of the corner of the solar array, which will give a visual indication if tension increases as the array is being deployed. And we have wing motion.
Okay, Houston, we see motion.
We've got the image down here, Lauren. And we like that view you're giving us.
Roger.
Director of Orbital Verification, Mike Harrington, reporting that deployment continuing to look good as the starboard wing is unfurled. Continuing to receive television from the spacecraft as the starboard solar array blankets continue to unfurl. Deployment continuing to go smoothly.
Discovery, all is looking well. Could you zoom out now, please?
Roger that, Story.
And we're waiting for confirmation. We have confirmation that the solar array wing on the starboard side has been deployed. This Hubble telescope control greenbelt with the successful deployment of both solar array wings. The orbital verification team is now proceeding to activate the solar array drive electronics. Solar array drive electronics provide control of the solar array, which drive the mechanisms to orient the arrays toward the sun. As the
Lauren?
Go ahead, Houston.
You can maneuver right to the release attitude right now. That's in the cap page 3-20.
Page 3-20 will maneuver to the release attitude.
That's firm.
And then following activation of the solar array drive electronics, the solar array offload device will be released. This device removes the load from the solar array drive mechanism bearings during launch to prevent any damage to those bearing mechanisms. And basically, the sequence is started to release that system, the offload device, by heating a memory alloy element which deflects and causes first in a series of latches to release. Again, we're proceeding now with activation of the solar array drive electronics and release of the offload device, which is one of a few steps that are required prior to clearing the way for release of the Hubble telescope today. At 1 day, 6 hours, 34 minutes mission elapsed time, this is Hubble telescope control in Greenbelt.
And in fact, we are receiving playback, and it started just after release.
Roger, that's where we thought it started.
Discovery Houston. Lauren, we'd like to know when you would like to schedule your PMC for this evening. We had one scheduled and we've gotten a little behind, so we want to know when you'd like to do that. And also just a little reminder for Bruce or Kathy, the PCG seating needs to be complete by 9:45 to be activated properly.
Roger, we copy.
And Discovery, that should be your last PDI decom fail. This time, the PI is off.
Roger that, Jim. And Jim, why don't you just leave the PMC where it's scheduled in the current flight plan, and we'll just interrupt long enough to talk.
Okay, then we'll do it per the schedule. Thanks.
Houston Discovery.
Go ahead, Lauren.
If you think our good friend Sonny Carter is still in the office, you might give him a call and see how much he wants for his watch.
Okay, we'll ask him about that. Is he going to give us the story behind this?
I'm sorry, you may not know the story. If he doesn't, why, maybe we can when we get back.
Okay, we'll let him know.
And do the words, "we have located it," mean anything?
Oh, I think it does. Okay, Lauren, thanks.